no more lightning struck in that vicinity. All right, so first of all, I want to give a really brief introduction. I'm Dave Alderman. I'm the president and CEO of Molekule Consulting. For those of you who don't know me, my background comes out of academic medicine. I made a career pivot into consulting, started my career at IMS Health, IQVIA, and then ultimately made my way to be entrepreneurial, starting Molekule now 13.5 years ago with the notion of bringing best-in-class, ethical, and actionable human intelligence to biopharma. Today we're going to discuss our doctrine. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the movie Fight Club. Anyone? Any hands? Any hands? So what is the doctrine of Fight Club?
First rule,
don't talk about Fight Club. First rule of Molecule Doctrine, we're going to talk about it, okay? So the point of this is we want to infuse an alternative hypothesis and what we believe to be a best-in-class means of conducting strategic competitive intelligence for biopharma that is not the AI thesis, okay? And we'll talk tomorrow about CI delusion when I give my keynote at 9:25 about that. So today, I'm just gonna ask everyone, because I don't know everyone here, just to briefly give your name, your affiliation, and what it is that you'd like to get out of today to the best of your ability so I can tailor my slides to what you'd like to hear, all right? Let me start.
Yeah, sure. I'm Stephanie Castelbella. I work at Tava in US Insights across innovative medicine and life sciences. In terms of expectation, I'm just here to kind of look at best practices in terms of how to evolve what we do with CI.
Sure.
Yeah, hi, Matt Presby. I lead competitive intelligence in magical pharmaceuticals in the metabolic space. I would agree CI best practices are one thing I'm looking for, and then just what's the biggest value lever that we can pull as CI leads to make the most impact in our business.
Jay Tsai at Pharma. My background is actually in data analytics and business intelligence, so I'm actually trying to get more of an understanding of competitive intelligence space and best practices.
Awesome.
Hi, Lucy Pryor, independent consultant previously with Bristol Myers Squibb. I'm looking for points of differentiation to really maximize the competitive intelligence value within the organization, bearing in mind the sort of internal challenges.
Yeah.
Eric Hendricks from Blue Rock Therapeutics. I lead the CI effort over there with cell therapies and Parkinson's and ophthalmology. I've only been in the field for about 5 months, so this is just here to learn.
Cool.
Rosina Wadwania from Takeda, and my therapeutic area is neuroscience and rare diseases.
Great. Let's go over here.
Hi, Punita Sani from Stellas, and we're pulling together all the insights related departments right now, so anything that you want to do that.
Sure.
Hannah from Indivia. I sort of stepped a bit away from competitive intelligence and come back again, so wanted to see kind of what I've missed in the interim to provide impact.
Perfect.
Blake from B1. To network with my peers, learn from you guys to stay updated.
Excellent.
Giovanni from Angelini Pharma, and well, I cannot come up with anything else that you guys already mentioned, so I'll be happy to learn more from this session.
Sounds good.
I've got over Nika Novartis. I lead the immunology CI team within the US Novartis organization. I'm here to learn about the best practices in terms of how we really convert intelligence into insights and action.
I am Ole Janisek. I am part of Molekule. I'm here to hear expectations of our clients and how we could keep on raising the bar at CI.
Karen Corducci, Daiichi Sankyo CI manager for oncology. Just to pick your brain and also to see how we could do CI and work with people in various fields.
Sure.
Kimberly Flanagan Bouchard, Director of Competitive Intelligence and Library Services, and to see if there's something I don't know.
Great. And last but certainly not least.
Hi, Mary Devona, Director of Marketing Research and Competitive Intelligence at Xeris Pharmaceuticals, US-based biotech in Chicago. I support 3 inline products and 1 pipeline product, so 4 disease states. It's a lot, and I started our CI function, which is entirely internal. We have not hired a third party as of yet. We haven't had the need, but I'm open to learning about what's out there and how we can maybe think differently. I like to bring innovation into the organization.
Excellent. Well, first of all, thank you all for giving your expectations. My expectation of this, what's called a masterclass, is not to be a didactic lecture. So yes, I can talk and talk and talk, but I don't want to bore you guys. I would like you to be as interactive as possible. So if you have something piques your mind, stop me mid-track, ask a question, interject ideas. Make it more of a workshop where we can moderate each other. Otherwise, I'm just going to be spewing on and on and on about Molekule doctrine, which I think is wonderful, but honestly is going to be divergent from what you guys are necessarily thinking. And by interacting on it, we'll be able to hopefully improve the Molekule doctrine for everyone's purposes, okay? So, I want you to do a poll, and we have 4 different kind of blocks here, which are 0 to 25%, 26 to 50, 51 to 75, and 76 to 100% in terms of credibility, veracity, and accuracy. Now, what I mean about that is, with your competitive intelligence that you are getting in your work streams, whether it's from vendors, internal, AI, human, SIGINT, OSM, whatever, net, how accurate do you think it is? And by a show of hands, we don't have the click responsers here, unfortunately, the Pharma CI people didn't provide them. Let's go into the bucket. So let's start with who believes they're at the apex, between 76 and 100%. Okay, so I've got 3, 7, I'm not including you, Ole. Rob? So we have 1 out of, call it, 15 individuals, not including Ole, who believes they're at 76 to 100%. Now what about that 51 to 75%? Okay? Majority. And for those beneath 50%, let's just put you guys into one bracket together. We got the remainder, which is about 4. So the distribution is quite skewed towards normal, makes sense, okay? And that's not surprising to me. Now, the next question I have for you, and I'm gonna get ahead of my slides, is, particularly for Gaurav, what do you think, not proprietary and confidential, but what do you think facilitates your ability to get so accurate compared to the rest of the group here?
I would say triangulating that information from multiple different sources, sort of, instead of relying on like one single source of information, and then over a period of time building that level of confidence with that intelligence.
Makes sense. So, please.
Can you further define, because to me, if early stage the predictability can be low, the inline product can be high, do you think that's a trend that it can be justified the differences?
So that's a great question. And the answer is a little bit nuanced, yes and no. Yes, if you're discretely looking at early stage, meaning before phase 2B, it is much more difficult because, understanding what kind of dark swan events, what kind of regulatory changes, what kind of unforeseen adverse events, what kind of funding issues may come into the fold. So there are a number of different confounders that can make that messy. Now, for inline products, similarly, it should be a little bit more predictable because you're already approved. It is not usual, but not unheard of at the same time, to receive some kind of a regulatory issue. Let's take example the JAK inhibitor class. Xeljanz, back I think it was like 5-6 years ago, had some data that labeled it with what's called a boxed warning. Then it was a black box warning, now it's a boxed warning by technical terms, the FDA. The big question that we as CI practitioners got from our clients was, will this be read through to other JAK inhibitors? For example, Rinvoq, Olumiant, etc. Because they are still clubbed in that same categorical JAK class, but they are allegedly differentiated. Now, what happened? They got the box warning transferred to them. At the same time, topical JAKs did not. So Insight has a topical JAK for immunological skin conditions. It did not get that because it was non-systemic. The next question for former BMS was Sotyktu. It's deucravacitinib, it's a TYK2 inhibitor. It's technically a chemical cousin to the JAK class. Close enough that it could be categorized in that broad brush umbrella, but the safety was clean and the FDA approved it with a clean label. Unpredictable because most strategists within pharmacos believe that Sotyktu was going to have that same class effect read through, okay? So there are all these different kinds of things. If you take together a continuum from super early discovery through lifecycle management and LOE, odds are you're going to be in that normal zone that the majority of you are in, which is about, 50, 75%. The reason why, you're balanced, there's equal weightedness, etc. But if you just take any discrete area, it's going to vary, okay? And this is based on all thread intelligence, meaning secondary domain or open source intelligence, financial intelligence, patent domains, regulatory intel, expert interviews, primary human intelligence, everything. Nothing's perfect. And that's the message I want to get across. Please. Nope. Any other questions? Okay. So, let's go ahead. So, we have at Molecule a lot of human intelligence practices and doctrines. Human intelligence is talking to people, having peer-to-peer conversations that are non-transactional, meaning there's no honorarium, it's not market research. We do not have a prescribed study guide where we're going to go and ask question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. It's go with the flow. Now, ethical and legal competitive intelligence means we're not asking to solicit or elicit any confidential or non-public information. In fact, we're just asking your qualitative opinion on things. And we put together via multiple different triangulations, we talk with Matt, we talk with Rob, we talk with Lacey, et cetera, and you all say roughly the same thing, and we come up with a thesis and then have the evidence corpus behind it to justify it, okay? Now, let's say hypothetically in our primary intelligence, we find out something that is contradictory to what you're hearing in the secondary domain. For example, let's go back to that Sotyktu example. Many analysts, equity analysts on the sell side, be it from Goldman, be it from JP Morgan, whomever, were claiming that the odds were in favor of BMS receiving that boxed warning as a read through the class effect from the JAKs. They were wrong. Secondary sources were wrong. Now, human intelligence had various opinions based on talking to key opinion leaders or external experts, talking with regulatory experts, talking with competitors to understand the multi-dynamics of it. And honestly, I can't tell you the outcomes of the research, or even if we were doing that research, because it's plausible deniability, but I would say that it is very likely that a contrarian and or contradictory perspective is likely to surface because you're looking at different people saying different things. Human intelligence is by no means perfect. We're not even close to 100% accuracy. The normal human intelligence vendor is probably getting you somewhere between 30 and 40% net accuracy over time. And I think that that's fair. We're batting about 350, 400. And in terms of Ted Williams or other baseball players, I'll take it. Okay, that's Hall of Fame category. If you can get above that, you're really swinging for the fences. Now, key here is how do you integrate all these different streams? The big thing today is artificial intelligence. I know it's the elephant in the room. Everyone's going to talk about artificial intelligence, how great it is, how many agents they have, how accurate they are. All good and well. But artificial intelligence is trained on corpuses of research, right? What it is fed. Now, if you're pulling from secondary domain, and the secondary domain is inaccurate or inconclusive, it is going to spit back results that are implicitly wrong. Furthermore, having a fair balance, like what Rob said, getting between 76 and 100% credibility and accuracy long term, I think makes sense because if I'm hearing you correctly, you're taking into account AI, secondary intelligence, monitoring feeds, human intelligence, etc. Is that correct?
Perfect, yes.
And honestly, you want a best practice? I think WAF has that. So if you overweight on anything, you're looking for something that doesn't exist. No one lever is going to give you 100% of anything. And a proper competitive intelligence program that is stood up and continued requires investment, requires, different themes, different ideas, and different ways of working. So if you're able to do it where you have even light touch human with heavy monitoring or whatever, you're going to have a lot more credibility and also kind of optionality of what could or may happen. Because, think of it this way, COVID-19 came out of nowhere. It had a vast effect on society. It changed everything. Ways of working, ways of pharma companies selling and detailing went digital, and then it reverted. If you just went with predictive algorithms from artificial intelligence, which really didn't exist at the time publicly, you probably wouldn't have come close to what reality looks like today, where a majority of corporations expect you back in the office 3 to 5 days a week, except if you have a work from home exclusion. Majority of physicians do not want to be e-detailed or virtually prescribed to. They want in-person interactions, especially from scientific exchange with medical science liaisons. It's very different than what was thought would be the new archetype moving forward. Let me pause for a second and see if there's any questions, comments, feedback. Just get a pulse check in the room. Is what I'm saying sort of resounding? Am I totally off base? Anyone? Don't be quiet.
On track.
On track?
Yeah.
Okay. So one person. Anyone else? No? Don't be shy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna make sense. You're just listening, and I'm thinking about what we're struggling with. I think in some cases the primary CI aspect and getting to the right sources and doing that triangulation is getting harder and harder. And I'm wondering, do you find best practices are the best way is to kind of agree with a vendor to regularly do sets of primary CI interviews, or do you feel like congresses are the best place to gather things, or do you feel like ad hoc is kind of better? I kind of feel like over time sources get stale, that predictability keeps going down, and then do you need to change vendors?
Sure. So I think
it's kind of, I don't know if you have any thoughts on
yeah,
that.
I definitely do. So for me, it's going to depend on what you're looking to learn. Are you looking to know the, go-to-market model and, message, counter-message of your competitors versus you? Are you looking to understand the benchmarking of the size and structure of field teams? Are you looking at new commercial models and areas of innovation and such? And I know those are all very disparate from each other, but hear me for a second. To me, the conference is honestly the worst place for primary intelligence. And I'm going to take a very abstract view on this. At the conference, if you're in any therapy area where there are multiple players competing, you are going to have multiple CI vendors there. Now, I assume everyone here has attended a CME symposium at some conference, ASCO or ADA or something, right? Okay. At the end of the symposium, have you seen a number of dark suits, kind of mid-20s to early 30-year-old individuals just rushing the lectern, not the podium, let's use the right word here, the lectern, and trying to harass the expert who is speaking? I would assume the answer is yes, because I've seen that myself hundreds and hundreds of times. Now let me ask you something. You're a 25 to 30-year-old individual, and I mean no ageism here. Do they know that expert personally on a first name basis that they're able to have a scientific or intellectual exchange with them? Probably not. They give that less than 10% odds. Number two, if you were in the shoes of that expert and you, let's binary this out, you do have that relationship, are you going to have a CI interview in the middle of your end where your handler is trying to take you away? No. So conferences are wonderful for getting what I consider to be superficial intelligence, pictures, having booth interviews, etc. But having meaningful primary, true human intelligence requires relationships, networks, and sustainability. Now, to that end, can you use a conference targeted for primary? Yes. But you're not going to want to have those interviews on the booth floor, at coffee at Starbucks at McCormick, right outside of the booths, the expo. Not happening. You have to have a one-on-one with somebody, pre-scheduled, preordained, it's not ad hoc, and expectations set. So, again, ethical, legal intelligence. You're doing primary CI, it is your legal responsibility in the United States and in the European Union, based on various anti-competition laws. You must accurately identify yourself as, in this case, Dave Alderman. I'm from Molekule Consulting. We are a strategic intelligence firm, and I want to have a conversation with you about X, Y, Z, okay? Furthermore, you have to say that you are representing some counterparty. You cannot say it's BMS, you cannot say it's Pfizer, you cannot say it's Novartis, but you can say that it's a multinational pharma company with keen interest in the space or whatever. If you don't, it's considered to be surreptitious and misleading, and not only is it only unethical, it is in fact illegal, violating antitrust laws in the United States and in Europe. I'm not going to speak to Asia because it's much more nuanced based on the country. So again, your average CI vendor that is doing all different things in their primary research probably is not doing that, honestly. Number two, if they are, they probably are doing something really bad and maybe even giving some kind of payment or honorarium and classifying it as market research. So just keep that in mind. To your question of ad hoc versus persistent, again, it depends. If you have a particular program in an area, let's say you mentioned biosimilars, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the innovative thing.
All right, so innovative, what TA?
Neuroscience.
All right, so let's say innovative neuroscience, like PD, MS, etc. Something like that?
Yeah, movement disorders.
Movement disorders, okay. So there are reasons to have continual conversations. You probably want to understand what competitors are doing from a ClinDev perspective and regulatory perspective, from a business development and licensing, corporate development perspective, M&A partnerships, etc. Understanding, beyond just the clinical outcomes, but how a company would bring it to market. If it is a small player, would they go it alone, would they partner, etc. You're not going to have a one-off conversation and get that information. It takes building trust and sustainability of sources. So in those cases, for long-term portfolio considerations for you, you want to have regular research. To your question of source fatigue or tiredness, if you know what you're doing, you're going to burn out fewer sources. You're still going to burn out sources, it happens. But you have to manage your client's expectation as well as the expectation of your sources and your team. So if you say, I need this now, the risk is, if I go to Dr. Presby, and Dr. Presby doesn't want to talk to me now, but I'm pushing him and pushing him and pushing him, and he tells me something, I could burn him out and he'll never talk to me again. Okay? At the same time, if I say to you, Dr. Presby gives me options in 2 weeks to speak with him, I'll try to get it before then. In the meantime, let's try other sources and such to understand, and of course it's blinded to you. And you're accepting that, it is a lot less likely that you're going to burn out the sources. No different than using your credit card, okay? If you use it too frequently with too high velocity and too high charges, you're going to max out and it's going to decline. Is there repair? Yeah, you pay it off. But the point that I'm making is you have to balance need versus speed versus reality. And I think that most vendors, just from experience, myself in the past too, have always committed to, yes, we can do it. We will do it. We will figure out a way. And that leads to unfortunate outcomes in the end. Reality is, if you're doing human intelligence, we're dealing with humans. We're on their schedule. We're not paying them anything, so what's in it for them to talk to me when I need them? Probably not a lot. So I have to abide by them. Does that make sense? Any other questions on that? Or any thoughts on that? Do you think that's accurate, or for those of you who do CI with vendors and human intelligence?
Accurate.
No. Any other questions before I start cycling through slides? No? Very quiet audience. You guys need coffee or something, come on. All right, so we have 3 pillars in our doctrine. And why do I say this? Because there's motive over metrics, there's narrative over noise, and there's truth before telemetry. So what the heck does that mean? Really, what it means is, what's in it for the respondent? Why is somebody gonna tell me something, have a conversation with me, I'm not paying them anything? Best I'm gonna do is buy them, super mochaccino caramel $12.50 thing at Starbucks. Okay, that's basically where the limit goes. Anything above that is sketchy and probably not ethical. Why? Because you build relationships over time. You have to, again, have that fair balance. And why do I say 3 pillars, not 5 pillars, or 4 pillars, or 10 pillars? You guys are familiar with the tripod. You have them right there. Okay. Why is it a tripod? Why are there 3 legs? Anyone? Anyone? Physics? Chemistry? No? So
flexible.
the triangle is the strongest biophysical and physiological structure. If you look at any kind of physical thing, triangle, or 3 legs, makes it the most stable and the most balanced. When you start introducing further angles to this, you start diluting your core, and also, and more importantly, you can found your own people. Keep your principles principle, keep them simple stupid, KISS principle, and I promise you'll get better outcomes. Now, from these 3 pillars, can you have various corollaries and tangents and such? Sure. But macro, keep it to this, and you will do much better than trying to, have a whole crazy MECE organization. Now, in terms of human loop construction, what does that mean? Again, I don't know everyone. I know a decent number of people. I don't know every expert. I don't know every company. I don't know many of you before today. Hopefully I know you after today. But it's about networking and building relationships and trust. So we believe in the following schematic, which is asset recruitment, source validation, signal collection, strategic integration, cross-referencing, decision triggering, compartmentalization, pattern analysis, and feedback. Net, that's a complicated corollary loop that starts with I meet you today, okay? We talk, I'm not gonna ask any questions because it's gonna be off-putting. I just wanna get to know you, get to know me, and we build a relationship over time. No different than the intelligence community, like the CIA or MI6 or Five Eyes, goes out and builds real human assets for statecraft and sovereign intelligence. Same principles apply. So over time, you build trust, mutuality. Because think of it this way, I could ask you a question today, okay, about Royalty Pharma and that new arrangement you have, and you might tell me, but you don't trust me because you have no reason to. But over time, be it weeks, months, ideally years actually, to build networks, you're able to build that mutual trust and recognition that if you tell me something, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to say, don't say that. I shouldn't have said that. I'm the N of one who knows that, and everyone's gonna be able to identify me. We give you that opportunity. So in our doctrine, say I talk to Lacey, okay? Get an interview with her. After the interview, we're not recording any conversations, we're not transcribing any conversations with AI. Why? Again, it is illegal to do that without definitive consent from the source.